Payne, explain to the people what you're doing right now.
It's like Jenga. I'm just taking the top of the Jenga piece off.
Jenga starts at the bottom.
Okay, this is where we want to start.
You start at the top?
Well, you can't go from the top, but I'm going from the top and these.
This one's ready to come down. It's got a good lean to it. These mortar joints, it's been repointed before, definitely, but yeah, the mortar's all gone completely through and through. These ones are nice to take down because right now it's coming down, by hand. This, who knows? This one's probably like 100 years old, I guess. And one of the reasons why it lasts so long is, they have good brick, and it was laid with the lime mortar originally. And the lime mortar can breathe and can drain water, and it's flexible. And people will tell you it's garbage because when you go to take them down, you can take them down by hand, basically. But had this been built with a type S mortar, say, you might get 20 years out of this chimney, 30 years before all these brick will be like spalling faces and falling apart. So it's definitely a win for the lime mortar. All right, this is a setup today. So we're on this roof. This one's a 12-12. Get the ridge hook ladder. It's 20 feet. Hooked to the ridge with one of these hooks. These hooks suck, by the way. I don't know why. It seems you can only get these ones. The problem is they don't go past the ridge. They go onto the ridge shingle. If any manufacturer would just make a decent one, sort of like this, but like longer, it would make so much sense. Everybody would buy them. Nobody likes these ones. It's all we can buy. Yeah, so we don't have to put frames on this because we're not going that high. Ridge hook ladder down to foldable ladder on that flatter roof, down to another foldable ladder. Got that piece of wood blocking it off the edge of the house so we don't damage the shingles. Down to the truck. What else? Oh, you can see how this thing grabs the shingle. It's really not the best. Matter of fact, I actually forgot to pad this one out. I usually put some padding on it. I usually have a piece of foam pipe insulation that I have on my other ridge hook, but this one doesn't have one, so I'll just put some of this blanket under it right here to help the roof out a bit. Got a plank here on this pitch, and I got double pitch hoppers here with just a plank across. This is going to help catch the debris. Just give me a place to stand for a minute when I need it. Bricks coming down. This one's unlined. That means there's no flue, no stainless, there's no clay, all the way down. The mortar joints are pretty well eaten on the inside of this chimney. The more you go down, the more the mortar joints are looking a little better. But this chimney's had a hard life. It needs a liner. I've given the customers a price for the liner and the chimney, so this year we're just going to do the chimney. Next year we'll do the liner. Not everybody can afford to do everything at once, and that's perfectly fine. So as long as you know that your chimney's unlined and it's in rough shape, and carbon monoxide detectors in the house are super important when you have an old house, old chimney. You just have to know. They're going to give you your first warning. People don't want to buy them because they're $30 to $60 or whatever, but just buy a couple to have in your house. It's really good peace of mind. You'd never know if this was leaking in your house, sometimes until it's too late. So one step at a time. We can't put the liner in first because this chimney, we could, but the chimney really needs to be done first, and then we'll have a solid structure to put the liner into. That's the best way to do it. And you know, the flashing on this one's been obviously leaking, so they put this window flashing on here. And then it was tar underneath with lead here. And so we're gonna have to flash this in. The problem with this roof is looking up from the attic, there's just shingles there over pine boards. So they've just got 1 inch thick pine boards running this way. They don't have a single bit of underlayment under the whole thing. No tar paper, nothing, just shingles over wood. This chimney is not going to go up as high as it was before. It's just going to go to a point where we're code compliant. They don't want to pay for all the height that this one had before. Sometimes people would have put them this high before. You know, they put them up that high. I think when they had coal stoves in them originally, the coal stoves, they built the chimneys higher. I guess they needed it a little bit higher to have a little better draft. So there's just a boiler in here now, so we don't have to really worry about that. And we, you know, as you can see, we've got plenty of height. Probably close to 35 feet from here to the ground, maybe. After looking at this brick and inspecting it a little closer, you can see pretty clearly that the brick itself has been dyed. And you know, when you do that, it does, you know, you can change the color of your brick and make it have a decent overall appearance by just dyeing the faces of them. And I think this is what they would have done on a lot of historical jobs, where you see the brick is all one consistent color. They would have dyed it with an iron oxide pigment. And I think they did all that right before laying it. And then so it all has this symmetrical look, because, you know, if you ever try pulling that stuff apart and laying it back together, it doesn't look like it matches very well, especially if you use some of the back sides of the brick that are more orange. But yeah, they had this kind of, it's almost like a salmon color. This isn't the same color as those real old ones, but you know, it's a technique that I feel like is lost and people don't use it anymore. You know, especially for historical work when they're putting it back together. I wish I knew more about how they would have done it. I know that they would have used, you know, brick dust or whatever to dye it. But I don't really know what they would have used as a binder. You know, maybe it was, you know, they had some kind of glue that they put in there, or maybe mixed it with a little bit of lime water. I'm not sure. I wish I knew more about it. I know that they dyed them. These ones you can see, and you can tell that they were dyed. And actually some of the dye from the brick is seeping out into the mortar. You can see that. And maybe they dyed this one right before they repointed it, and that's why some of it was bleeding through into the mortar. I don't know, just to give it a better look. Interesting. Almost done the demo here. Just getting down to the flashing, but you know, to pull the rest of this brick down, I've got to pull all that down too. But when you're doing this, you have to be careful on these old houses sometimes, because if you look down there, that is so steep. The chimney through the attic is at a severe angle, okay? Way steeper than it ever should be. But that's how they did these chimneys sometimes, you know, to get them to come out the center of the house, or to get them to miss the peak. This one, I think that they just wanted to bring it out more towards the center of the house. But now look, if this isn't supported properly down there, that chimney, and say I pull this down here the rest of the way, and that the wood behind it's actually holding it, this chimney could just collapse into the attic because there's nothing holding it. Oh, there's the boiler that just popped on. Nice. So I'm gonna go into the attic and take a peek and see how this thing's supported, and see if I can do anything to help it out, because you know, I need to take this brick down, but obviously this brick's helping to support the chimney stay up. So just take a minute to take a look, because it could be a big mistake if you don't. Okay, we're in the attic here, and this is what the chimney looks like. You can see it is on a steady lean. It goes over feet, which is not okay. But it's what we're working with. So this is how they built it, and we got to deal with it. So you got this one plank here that basically they put that up there to support the chimney, probably when they were building it, I would assume. Looks like it slid away there a little bit. And then you just have this leg back here. It's got a nail in it. It's split. That one's got a nail in it. And then this piece here, I imagine that piece there is actually doing a lot of the work. And then we're up here to these scraps up here. So if I pull the chimney down below that point in the roof, I might be in trouble. So I got to try to find a way to maybe firm this up. So this is the low end of the chimney right here. I got to rip it down to probably, I could stagger it, you know, a little bit, but I got to rip it down to there. And you can see once I release that spot there, this chimney could put a lot of weight on that. So I got to find a way to, make sure this chimney doesn't fall over. Got a couple extra boards here I could use. I brought some GRKs up in my screw gun, and we'll just try to see if I can support this a little bit better. And this will give me a chance to see how my roof staging hooked on. I got 3 lags in it. You can see they're all through the wood right at the bottom. Well, that wasn't ideal. You can see the shingles through the gap. So there's no underlayment here. They just put the shingles right on top of this stuff. Not the best way to do it. Okay, so yeah, that wasn't very good where my staging went on there, and that's one of the things I wanted to check when I put it on, but we just haven't been putting much weight on there just in case. Let's come over to this side. Hopefully the chimney doesn't collapse on me. And on this side we got good meat here, right in the middle of the board. 2 of them right through. Okay, so it's just this side's good. The other side could use some support. So what I could do on that is just put a block of wood behind it here and just keep cranking on those GRKs to kind of suck them in. Something like that. Okay. Got work to do in here. See that one nail holding it here, split the board. One nail there, the board split just a little bit. And looks like that has a little, just a couple nails. This one, a couple toenails. Yikes, right? Like, this could end up bad. And look at the brick down here. These brick are definitely not the same color. I mean, they're the same brick. I can tell looking at them, but they don't seem to be the same color as up top. These ones are more orange than the red colored ones we pulled off the chimney out the roof. So they look like they were definitely dyed by somebody. You know, probably when they did the last repointing job on it, they dyed all the brick. Well, it's not pretty, but I did get, I just found some scrap wood up here, and I brought some GRKs up and tried to firm it up. I've got this new piece wedged back to here, a couple GRKs, and I found this piece of scrap in the corner. I was able to wedge it up in there pretty good and GRK it into this. It's got to be better than it was. So Hopefully it holds. Keep my fingers crossed. So we reached the moment of truth, and the chimney held, which is always good news. It didn't collapse into the attic. But so one other thing I wanted to show you is that, you know, when we start getting down to this level, the chimney up top is really bad. It's subject to all the weathering and the elements. But once we start getting down to here, we can't take it apart by hand anymore, and the mortar starts getting harder and harder as we go down, and these mortar joints start being more full, you know, and more full as we go down. So they're not completely all eaten, some of them are, but like, we can't just take this brick apart by hand anymore. Some of the mortar we can, but when we get down to this point, we have to start using the jackhammer a little bit more, because that brick just needs a little bit more persuasion, and the mortar, as we get below the roof, is better and better. That's why a lot of times we take them down to the roof level and rebuild them. Even though this one's pretty rough in the attic, but the mortar's much better down here, is the point. Just getting a start here on laying the brick, and usually what I'll do is just kind of like, if it's an old chimney, just start parging up around the area where I start. Obviously I can't clean up and reach down and do the whole thing, but basically I just wire brush all this this soot and stuff off the brick and try to get it somewhat clean, but it's so hard to get it perfectly clean. And basically you don't want to just put mud on there, you want to actually smear the mortar on there. So if you smear the brick, like really press it in and smear it first, and then come back and coat it, then it will bond to something and actually work. You can't just take a trowel full and just parge it on there and expect it to stay. And the same thing with this brick here. This brick is really dirty. It's been brushed. It's been I wire brushed it. I took a regular brush, but it's still really dirty. And yeah, I could just lay mud on there, and it would probably bond. But the best way to do it is to just take this first course and just smear it on there, okay? And I can tell you, after you smear it on there like that, you can see it just. It's not like if you just put mud on there and lay a brick. When you smear it on there first, you're forcing a bond, and it's not the same thing as just dampening something down. Like if you just, it's not the same as just wetting something down. You know, wetting something down that's dry is a good thing. It might help a bond sometimes, but in a situation like this, this is the best way to force the bond. Now, once it's in there, it's in the pores of the brick, and it's really just stuck on. When I go lay my brick, there's no way that this won't bond to the chimney below it, you know. And it only takes a couple seconds to go around and do this. I know most people would think it's kind of ridiculous, but it's the little things sometimes that make a big difference. Payne, explain to everyone what you're doing.
Putting some Slip Pro.
What is it called?
Slip Pro.
Slip Pro?
Slip Pro.
Sil Pro?
Sil Pro. Sealant bond on top of the bricks.
Why is that a good idea right now to do that?
So the rain doesn't absorb into the bricks right here.
Ooh.
And get into the joints and stuff and ruin the bricks or the joints.
Yeah, so this one doesn't have a flue liner in it. Right, no flue liner down there, so we've just parged it all up. And so we're gonna, the homeowner had to make a choice here whether they were gonna do the liner or the chimney. So they decided to do the chimney this year, and next year we're gonna put a stainless liner in it. So these bricks are cord bricks, so we just filled them up with mortar. Some of them probably have to be topped off a little bit, but yeah, we're just filling them with mortar, and we're going to put this bonding agent on top. It acts as a glue and kind of a sealant too. It'll just help to keep the water off the top. and help bond all this mortar together. Until next year when we come and redo the top and when we install the stainless liner. Yep, so that's it. Chimney's done. And I don't know, tomorrow, looks like it's gonna be an early day today, but we will come back tomorrow, do acid wash, and maybe put the flashing in. What else? Anything else? Nothing else. We still have to redo the shingles around the chimney. I put down this Vicor stuff. Keep a roll of this Vicor stuff around just to help temporarily waterproof stuff as we go. At the end of the day, we can just put that stuff on real quick and keep the water out for the night. All right, here we go. Here we do a quick acid wash. You can see that I've got it hosed down. You see the gray smudging from the mortar. Make sure it's all watertight. So this is all pretty watertight. Enough to spray it down. Spray everything down. So both sides of the roof. Everything where the acid's gonna touch. Just give it a quick hose down. This is gonna be like a quick process here. So it's not gonna take a lot of time. We're gonna, I've got some muriatic acid. And it doesn't matter which brand, it's kind of all the same. And bucket of water ready, clean bucket, acid brush, and some sort of stone or something. I've had this stone laying around forever. I just decided to use it here, but basically you can put the acid on it and then you can kind of, once it fizzes up, if there's some thicker stuff you need to get rid of, you can use the stone. You can use a chunk of brick, leftover brick. What works really well is the fine, like a knife sharpening stone, like a long skinny knife sharpening stone that's got like the fine grit. Works pretty good to clean all that off. If you only have a metal tool, you could use just some sort of metal tool to kind of help scrub it off. The acid's gonna do most of the work. And we're just gonna have to worry about some of the thicker spots where the acid doesn't touch. And we'll know after a couple of minutes what the acid's gonna get and what it's not. So yeah, here we go. You can measure it out if you want. You can do it 10 to 1, you could do it 4 to 1. I have never measured out acid, and I don't know anybody that ever has, but you just dump it in until you feel like you got a decent amount in there. You try it on the brick. If it fizzes up nice, then you got a good mix. If it doesn't fizz up, you add a little bit more. I've done it. I've used it straight on stuff before, so it's not really as harsh as what everybody leads you to believe. Maybe some people have different reactions to it, but I don't wear gloves. I get it on my skin. You just rinse it off, or I just rinse it off. It doesn't bother me. I've gotten it in my eye before, and just it's nice to have a hose if you get it in your eye. I still have full vision in both eyes. So yeah, you just kind of be careful with it. Don't get it in your eyes. Try not to get it on your skin. And don't let it sit on there too long. So this brick's actually starting to dry up a bit, as you can see. So I'm gonna give it one more hose before I scrub it. Just so we know the brick is nice and wet. I mean, it feels wet to the touch right now, but we don't want the acid to absorb into the brick or mortar because we don't want it to stay there. We're just using it to clean the outside. So I'm going to dump some of this in, and basically I always have the water in the bucket and then I add the acid. Some people want you to do it the other way, but it never made any sense to me. So I just look away for a second when I break the water with it, and then I turn back and just watch. That's a hefty amount. Probably way more than we need, but it'll be all right. I don't mind using a strong mix. It's not going to stay in the brick. It's going to really help me to clean it quickly. And then I'm gonna hose it off. I'm not filming any of this. You know, I'm gonna try to film a little bit of this so you can see how this stuff reacts when it hits the mortar. I'm just trying not to drop my phone in the acid bucket, but you can see how it starts to fizz up white like that, and you can hear it, and then you know it's working. So that's literally all you got to do on this side. Now I'm going to go around and do all the other sides real quick. This is a fast kind of thing. And then I'm going to scrub it and hose it off. I've just gone all the way around it, and I scrubbed everything, all the big stuff real quick. I maybe didn't get all the spots yet. So I went around the first time, scrubbed it up decent, and then just, using this stone. And then I just gave everything a rinse down to get the acid off it real quick before it starts to absorb and wet it down again. Now I'm going to grab the bucket and I'm going to hit it again with the acid. And this will be the last time. And then I'll scrub it again and then I'll rinse it off and I'll be done. I'll rinse the whole roof off completely down, the bottom roof, that side of the roof. Everything where the acid touched, I'm going to rinse off before it dries. Well, that's it done. It didn't take very long at all to go around and do the acid wash, scrub all the mortar off. I got most of it, and when it dries, it's gonna look really good. The acid pretty much does the work. So I mixed enough here, so I have a little bit to do the roof. I'm not gonna be replacing all of these shingles, so anywhere that might have gotten some splatter or spatter, gonna hit the roof real quick, make sure the roof's wet, obviously. Hit it real quick. It will take any kind of gray mortar residue off. And then we'll give it a quick rinse down and be completely done with the acid. And then I can focus on just cutting in the new lead flashing and doing all this work down here to get it watertight. That's all I got to do today. And then this job will be done until next year when I come back to do the install the stainless liner in here. Brick's drying up. And you can see that it cleaned up pretty nice. So now I'm gonna get started on the roof. You can see now with the new size of the chimney that the shingles are a little bit short. So I'm gonna recut some new shingles. The problem is this roof it's not terribly old, but it's kind of old. And these are Myerstown shingles. And I think that these are the shingles that were, I think there was this company called ELK or something, and they were bought out. I forget who they were bought out by. I think maybe GAF or something bought them out. And so now these shingles, you can't find them. So I don't know. I've got these CertainTeed shingles that I brought from my house to see if they would match. And they kind of match, but I don't know. It's not going to be. These ones are a little bit more blue. These ones are kind of like a blue-gray. So, sometimes you can't match perfect. I usually like to get pretty close, but I think I'm going to have trouble with this one. And I've already told the homeowner that I'm going to have trouble matching it. But so now we're going to peel these shingles back and get some ice and water shield on here. But look, you can see that, this is the Vicor that I put on here. And it's not as wide as I like to go with the ice and water shield. So, but that was a good temporary, thing for me to waterproof this while we left when it was going to rain. It's just having a roll of Vicor in the truck that it could just roll out real quick and put on there. So now I'm going to pull back some of these shingles, get ice and water shield on here, get some new shingles, cut in some flashing. So also, I'm just going to point out something that you'll see a lot of so-called really good roofers. They'll defend this. Roofers will defend cutting on top of a roof. I see this on a lot of roofs I'm on, like way more than you ever should, where they cut through and they gouge the shingle underneath. Look at all these cuts in the same place. They knew what they were doing, and they're moving so fast. They cut on top of the finished shingles, and it's just ridiculous. It's so easy to not cut on top of them. And they'll be like, well, If you know how to use a hook blade, you know, properly, that will never happen. And I'm sure people in the comments will say the same stupid crap. Don't cut on top of finished product. It just doesn't make sense. You cut on top of another shingle that you're not going to use, for crying out loud. Cut on top of the plywood deck. Cut anywhere but on top of finished shingles. These guys are just, you know, this side's fine, but this side's all chopped up. Last job I was on, the whole roof was chopped up around the chimney just like that. It was just, it's so crazy. I mean, I'm sure a homeowner, if you asked them if they wanted to pay for damaged shingles like that, they'd probably just say no. Hey, why don't you cut on top of something else other than my finished shingle product that I'm paying for? I can't tell you how many times I've seen this trick. Roofer installs the ridge vent so the attic can vent, right? A little upcharge, and then you pull it back and there's no vent. Well, now you can see why I like to bridge around the chimney with the metal, because, you know, there's just a shingle up over this just sagging into the hole, and now when I put metal around it, the metal I can bridge all the way to each side, put metal up on here, and the ice and water shield will never sag in these holes. This hole's not so bad, but it's actually pretty common for me to find some pretty big holes around the chimneys. I've seen holes that were more than 4 inches wide that I had to pad out with wood, but this one's too big, so I need the metal to help support the ice and water shield. Otherwise there's a chance it might sag into the hole, and then, you know, then it's no good. Just taking down the stage now. Just gonna give you one last look before we head out. I try to match the shingles as best I could. I couldn't find stuff that matched perfect, but, you know, I think it's gonna be okay. It's a little, the shade's just off a little bit, but sometimes you run into it and you just gotta do the best you can. Yeah, so that's what it is. Flashing's all done. Ice and water shield's under there, metal's under there. Ice and water shield goes over the back, under the peak, and I've got a nice little, I built it up back there so the water pitches out real nice. So, yep, this one's done. Cleaning up and we're getting out of here.